From gangs to gods. Unveiling the omnipresent signs and symbols of Chicago's major Black Street organizations. The degree of the builder's stone. Before we travel into this degree, let it be understood that the title Moore/Mo is only restricted to members of the Black P Stone Nation in Chicago. But on a universal level, it applies to those who claim descendancy by blood or affirmation to the indigenous masters of the sacred land of the West, Tamaree, also known as Turtle Island, as well as Northwest Amexem, Africa. In other words, those who are responsible for civilizing the nations of Europe in a righteous manner during their darkest of ages, as well as those righteous Moors who are the true holders, in due course, of the ancient organic sciences that will surely uplift fallen humanity. Now, when viewing the omnipresent signs and symbols of the said organization from a surface level, one would most definitely be unaware of the higher sciences that they contain deep within. But as we explore the many layers of these particular signs and symbols, namely the pyramid with the all-seeing eye shining brilliantly behind its capstone, the 5-point star and the crescent moon, and a closed circle containing the number 7 in its center, what we truly find are adept degrees of the higher ways of life that were created to aid in the awakening process, as we begin to remember who we really are as a people, on our own land, in our own universe, in our eternal galaxy. The Sacred Black Stone. In Black P Stone literature, the Sacred Black Stone is the divine symbol which represents. As we search for the Black Stone universally, we are led to Mecca/Mecca, Arabia. And it is here that we find the physical black stone, Mishba, mounted upon the sacred shrine of Islam called the Kaaba. Ka equals spirit, and Ba equals soul. See the degree of the Kemet Ba. The Kaaba is a cube-shaped pyramid whose 4 corners point towards the 4 points of the magnetic compass. It is accurately aligned with the sunrise of the summer solstice and the sunset of the winter solstice. This sacred shrine is said to have been built by Abraham and Ishmael after a divine command from God, Allah. It is also said to be constructed over the grave of Hagar the Egyptian, mother of Ishmael, consort of Abraham, Genesis chapter 16. With, and according to this biblical documentation, we are able to conclude that the mother of the pure Arabian bloodline, and Islam was an organic original being. This in turn would explain the Kemetic, Egyptian influence that are reflected in the names of Allah. As we continue, we find that the sacred black stone of Mecca is revered by millions of Muslims for its link to Abraham, Hagar, Ishmael, and of course, the Prophet Muhammad. In Orthodox Islam, pilgrimage, Hajj, to Mecca is one of the 5 obligations of a Muslim before he or she leaves this earthly plane of existence. And these obligations are faith, prayer, charity, fasting, and pilgrimage. Every devout Muslim who makes it into the walls of Masjid al-Haram circumambulates, tawaf, around the Kaaba 7 times in a counterclockwise fashion, circle 7. This ritual is performed with hopes of reaching the black stone so it can be touched, either by rub and or by kiss. This sacred black stone is regarded as the personal stone of the Prophet Muhammad, which was proof to the world that he was truly a divine prophet of God. It is also believed that each divine prophet of God had his very own black stone for the same reason. In Hadith, the oral sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, it is said that this black stone fell from heaven white in color but eventually turned black because of the sins of the sons of Adam. It is also believed that this sacred stone contains the powers of healing and blessings. According to science, the black stone is composed of a rare element that is not found on Earth. Now in relation to these particular statements, we examine the mineral carbonado, which is practically a black diamond. Incidentally, this rare mineral, according to many theorists, also originated in outer space. Is this a mere coincidence? Or are these 2 black stones, in reality, one and the same? What we do understand is the fact that both are carbon. Carbon is the manifestation of dark matter. Dark matter is the nucleus of melanin, and melanin is the essence of the life force, which is Ra, the sun, fire, and dark energy. The reality of the pyramids of the world. In Black P Stone Lit, the pyramid is the divine symbol that represents. This symbol has been presented by the P stones since the mid-1950s. And as the stones evolved, so did their perfected pyramid, which contains 21 bricks. It's quite obvious that the Mose pyramid is symbolic of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Yet there is something else to be considered in regards to all pyramids of the planet, especially the extremely ancient ones located right here on Turtle Island. As time has evolved into this present sun cycle, we are remembering that there are over 1 million ancient mounds and pyramids all over the planet Earth and beyond, with the vast majority of them being located right here on the land called the Americas. In most places, they are mistaken for mountains or hills because of the trees and grass that covers their surfaces. Of course, this was done in order to conceal the true identity and history of the original and organic indigenous people of this land. So, what is it about these phenomenal mounds and pyramids that are so important that they had to be kept a secret? And why haven't we, as a people, been informed about their presence? Organic man, the ultimate pyramid. As we restudy ourselves, the energies that we produce, and the sciences of forms and geometric shapes, we relearn why the pyramids of the world were constructed, which was for the purpose of reminding the children of the sun, aka the remnant seeds, how to identify with ourselves internally and externally. Also to present us with the divine keys that will realign us with the land which we are organic and natural to, and the constellations of our origins as carbon/starborn children. For this reason, our ancestors built the pyramids in the same diametric form of man and left engraved messages, hieroglyphics, behind for us to study. Once we truly learn how to decipher these messages, an immediate shift will take place on this planet as well as in the universe. As the Earth moves continuously, our pyramidal/triangular shaped structures draw energy from its vibration, and we in turn reciprocate that energy to all of creation by way of our divine existence. Understanding that the P stones have presented their pyramid with extreme accuracy reminds us of all of the major pyramids of the planet, which in actuality means that, in essence, you are the great pyramids of the world. And just as the pyramids have baffled minds for centuries, so are the divine secrets of your existence still baffling minds to this very day. The reality of the 5-point star. In black P stone lip, the 5-point star represents love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as brought forth by the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Now as we dig deeper into the metaphysics of this glorious star, we find that it symbolizes man in his primordial gender, feminine genesis. Hence, this star points to his universal existence as 50% male and 50% female, respectively. As man existed in the primordial darkness of the Great Mother's womb, Tiamat, he was first manifested as a passive light. But at the crossroad of decisions, she chose the aggressive energies of creation and became male and thus formed an elongated. At that moment, the 5-point star became, and thus, the passive became aggressive/the female became male. In other words, God's decision to become male, or to remain in her original state of creative existence, was solely based upon the carbon atoms of the experiences which she chose to undergo in order to attain perfection as the essence of the Almighty Omnipotent Creator. Behold! In accordance with Black P stone literature, we present the most honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali, born Timothy Drew on January 8, 1886, in Smoky Mountain, North Carolina, on a Native American reservation. It has been reported that his mother was an escaped prisoner of war, and that his father was a dark-skinned indigenous warrior known as Eagle Man. He first established the Canaanite Temple in Newark, New Jersey in 1913 at the age of 27. After about a decade, he decided to travel and settle in Chicago, New Mecca, in 1925, where he officially registered Temple Number 9 of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Unfortunately, Orthodox Muslims do not accept Prophet Noble Drew Ali as a legitimate prophet of God. This rejection is primarily based on the Quranic statement in chapter 33 verse 40. Muhammad is the Khitam Nabi/seal of the prophets. His legitimacy as a prophet is also denied due to his original organic bloodline. The Circle 7. The above symbol, which was brought to the lost tribes of this land by the most honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali, is called the Circle 7. It is occasionally incorporated into the pyramid of the Black P Stone Nation. The only difference is that when it is presented by the P stones, its openings are sealed, thus making it a closed circle. An educated guess suggests that the P stones have done so to keep certain enemies outside of the circle of trust. See question and answer number 69 of the 101s of the Moorish Science Temple of America. In contrast, the members of the MST of A do not honor the closed circle, stating that it, according to higher mathematics, is a circle incomplete. In the advanced teachings brought forth by the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali, this divine circle represents a garden which is guarded and entered into by Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. The 7 in the center represents God, the Divine Mother. Hence, the light / the primordial waters of creation. And lastly, the circle also represents 360 degrees of the planet Earth with 490-degree angles. The Black Buddha and Black Confucius. Prince Gautama, the Buddha, and Kong Qi, Confucius, have been linked to the Circle 7 in order for us to remember our places in the history of Asia. This is why we, at times, have been referred to as the Asiatic Black Man, because we, the organic people of the land, were in Asia hundreds of millions of years before the amalgamation processes, which created many of the fair-skinned Asian groups that we see in that part of the world today. According to Hadith, the Prophet Muhammad said, "Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave, even unto China." Taking this statement into consideration and studying the spiritual practices of Asia / the Far East, we find that the majority of these schools of thought were created by our righteous ancestors for our earthly and divine salvation. This includes Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, and Shintoism, etc. Unfortunately, many so-called learned religious leaders have shown a dim light on any other school of thought that is not in direct compliance with the teachings that they profess. In other words, people tend to speak negatively about things they don't understand. But as re-raised goddesses and gods, we understand that the teachings of what is considered as the Far East are far from evil or negative. In fact, some of the main principles of these higher teachings are: desire is the root of all evil. Cleanse your heart. Do no evil deeds. Practice good morality. Learn and practice good deeds. Lying is evil. The crescent moon. In 217-1914 literature, the crescent moon is the divine symbol which represents. Also see the degree of the inheritors. This particular phase of the moon is considered the last quarter, which is partway between the half moon and the new moon. In other words, 1/4 of the illuminated portion remains visible until it completely fades away. This liminal phase is primarily used for release, cleansing, and spiritual closure. It supports banishing negativity, breaking old attachments, shadow work, and deep inner reflection, which prepares the spirit for renewal before the next cycle. The all-seeing eye of Horus. In Black Pea Stone Lit, the all-seeing eye is the divine symbol that represents. Now, on a universal level, it must be understood that this is not just an Egyptian symbol, it is the science of sight beyond sight. In other words, the first eye, which has been mislabeled, the third eye. In Kemet, it represents supreme awareness, protection, and the restoration of order after chaos. Hence, consciousness elevated above illusion. Furthermore, it is also symbolic of the pineal gland, which functions as the receiver of subtle frequencies, translating light, rhythm, and vibration into awareness. Up until now, the information presented in this degree has been approached from a metaphysical and esoteric level. But here is where we bring the power of natural science into our physical realm of true law and governance. Let all ears stand still and hear. The original and organic people of this land are protected by the Great Spirit, Mother Nature, and the divine righteous ancestors of infinity. But as blacks, Negroes, colored, African American, etc., we become subjected to quasi-laws, proclamations, acts, codes, etc., that are in complete opposition to the common laws of Mother Nature, or what many may classify as the laws of Almighty God. These unnatural laws are created by private corporations, local, state, and federal, for the purposes of energy harnessing and control of the currents thereof, hence, currencies. While this pathological form of oppressive rule is the foundation of these so-called laws, the tribes on the land bear the weight of the disagreeable one's karma due to our unknowing submission via consent, often in the form of informal agreements, better known as adhesion contracts. These binding contracts were created so could benefit from our ignorance and misery, of course, for their own selfish gain. In essence, this was never about gangs, religion, or distant monuments. It was about remembrance. The black stone, the pyramid, the all-seeing eye, the circle 7, the 5-point star and crescent moon, and the sciences carried by the Honorable Prophet Noble Drew Ali are the definitions of one continuous law moving through time, land, and people. What has been carved into temples, aligned with constellations, and guarded by our ancestors was returned to its place of origin, Big Egypt, Chicago, Illinois, so the people would never fully lose it. The greatest deception was not the hiding of knowledge, but convincing the original people that they were separate from it. The greatest pyramid was never built of stone, the greatest temple was never confined to walls, and the greatest secret was never hidden outside of us. See the degree of Solomon's temple. The organic 9 ether being is the living symbol. The pyramid lives, the star breathes, the circle 7 turns, and you are the nucleus. When unified consciousness returns, the false quasi-laws of mankind collapse under their own weight, and natural law resumes its place without permission, under the uplifted and restored matriarch, the mother of humanity. This knowledge does not chase followers. Its magnetic qualities attract freedom, hence, law governs all events. Those who have ears will hear. Those who have eyes will see. And as it is proclaimed by the Mos, all is, truly, well. We hope that you've enjoyed this video and the content contained herein. For it was truly created with the intent to reawaken the sleeping tribes on the land from our untimely amnesia. This includes black pea stones, vice lords, bloods, Mickey Cobras, four-corner hustlers, black disciples, Crips, gangster disciples, black souls, and new breeds, etc. In other words, all of the tribes who have returned, only to be mislabeled as gangs. Those who over and understand the difference between the legacy of the righteous priesthood of Moors, who are organic and indigenous to Turtle Island, and the unrighteous invaders, called Moors, who sailed here from distant shores. As long as the distinction is clear, there is no room for confusion in regard to the similar titles. The secret is, many of you are direct descendants of this said ancient priesthood, and the mission has been to keep you under a spell for as long as possible. But the beautiful thing is that your DNA and the lands of your lineages hold precise memories that are awakening as we speak. Now, in closing, the honor must be placed where it is due, because this degree is not only about symbols in the sky or temples in the sand. It is about the living carriers of the science here on this soil, the almighty Black Pea Stone Nation. They did not simply create imagery, they preserved vibration. They encoded memory into form, discipline into structure, and unity into symbol, so that even in environments designed for confusion, the blueprint of higher order would still exist in plain sight. And where history attempted erasure, they answered with continuity. This is why the title Almighty is relevant, not as a title of ego, but as recognition that divine law can still stand upright even in the middle of disorder. To study the omnipresent signs and symbols of the said organization is to study endurance, and to recognize their origin is to recognize that the same ancient current moving through the ancient Kemet of the West, through the Washita Moors, who are the master mound builders, through the great ancient Sibyls, is still moving through its place of origin. Right here, through the people of the land, aka the remnant seeds of the ancient Mississippi River culture. So this is not merely history being discussed. This is legacy being acknowledged. Because whenever a people hold onto symbol, structure, and unity, against all pressure to forget, they are no longer just participants in time. They become guardians of memory. And those guardians, in this case, are the almighty Black Pea Stones, whose omnipresent signs and symbols has always contained the higher sciences of the original and organic goddesses and gods, without the slightest flaw whatsoever. We now conclude this degree of the Builder's Stone, in trust that it has been enlightening to all. If so, please like, share, and subscribe. Last but not least, be sure to stay tuned for the upcoming degrees of the conscious elements, the degree of the Duat and the Abyss, and the other degrees previously mentioned in this video. Until we meet again, Noa Tohia Da, which is indigenous for peace.